So kind of think about your audience, think about the time of day that you're tweeting, and change up your messaging a little bit for that. And there are very low financial barriers to entry, but as Sarah was talking about, do think about the time commitment. We use the company's Facebook site. We're about to launch our own, but I haven't done that because we didn't have the bandwidth. We feel like we're able to do that now, so we really have focused on Twitter. And to the other Sarah's point, if you're dormant, I think that's almost worse than not having a presence at all. So if you're not going to be able to make a commitment to continually update the information, it's probably not time to do it yet. And stick to your traditional means of communication. I also just wanted to point out our annual report, which is on our homepage. We stopped publishing. Yes, ma'am.
May I ask, given the goals and interests of your organization, how did you come to the decision that Twitter was your best choice?
Because I could write a tweet in 4 minutes, and I didn't feel like I had the time to update a Facebook page continuously. I also do a blog, which you'll see I haven't done in a week or so, which is bad. So that's on my to-do list for today. But I felt like the blog would allow me to put out longer pieces and tell longer stories that I could then tweet, but that I really didn't have the bandwidth, my team didn't have the bandwidth to have a standalone Facebook page. We use the companies, and a lot of that is about our local volunteer efforts, and the nonprofits that we partner with put a lot of great information up there as well. So it is about looking to your partners, the groups you serve, your donors, to help tell the story as well. As Sarah said, you do have to be willing to let that story go. The community typically is great at self-policing. So we posted something recently about green building. And people jumped on and said, well, green building costs more now and it costs more later. And I just kind of watched it, and after a while, people started telling the other side of the story, which is much better than my jumping in. We posted something else, I can't even remember what it was, but people started talking about immigration. And I talk about a lot of things, but immigration is not one of them. But it was the same thing, and then somebody said, did you even read what this was about? You know, so it's interesting to see that this is an engaged and a group that kind of cares about righteousness, they care about justice, and so when they see things going awry, they kind of jump in. Just think about the theory behind Wikipedia, that people will check facts and take things down that aren't right. It's the same idea. This year we decided not to publish a traditional annual report and mail that. The cost was similar to do an online report. This one was very interactive. We have videos for each of the sections. We have an interactive map, which Sarah's getting up, that allows you to see what we've done in each state individually. So I would encourage you to think about your websites and your annual reports and such in terms of how to engage your audience even more, and to allow them to look at information in the way they want, and then to repurpose each of these components. So this had videos, we put each of those on YouTube as well. So think about repurposing everything. You know, if you're doing a written newsletter, post that article on your Facebook site too. So we try to be really smart about how we're managing information and communications. And again, just thinking about this as a new method of distribution more than a new means of communication, if that makes sense.
Did you guys email that out then?
We did. And then with Google Analytics is, if you're not using that, you should, tells you which pages on your website are most popular and how people are finding you. And so that's a pretty easy way to monitor which pieces of your website, which pieces of information your audiences are most interested in. Is that good? Okay. Yes.
Did you get any negative feedback about not printing
We got tons of feedback. None of it was negative.
Really?
And we pushed it, as I said, I get lots of email, and a lot of times if it's, you have the newsletter and it says click here to download pictures or whatever, I delete those. So I assume other people are doing that too. So we pushed this out several different ways. We send an email, we send a newsletter, I tweeted about it, we highlighted it on our homepage. So I think that video that we saw at the beginning, Sarah may see that as an opportunity and that the company has to move and we all need to move. I see it as a demonstration of how much noise there is and how much we're all being inundated with information, and that you have to find ways to try to get through that. And repetition is one way that if you haven't gotten through one means, try another. And as Sarah said, you don't want to be bombarding people all the time. You want to be respectful, but you do want to try to break through all that noise as well.
Do I press this button?
Yeah.
Hello.
The technology works.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Glenn Caruso from, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but the mic's not working.
Glenn Caruso? Hello?
Hello? Oh, hey, okay. Thank you. Excuse my head being down. I'm Glenn Caruso from FirecrackerDigitalInstitute.com. We do a lot of social media marketing training, and we do a lot of free seminars for pro bono groups, by the way. But question, this is tactical, and I'm wondering if you can email this out or post it somewhere. I'm very curious about your documents you use for setting up strategy, and how you also what you actually show to management of here's our physical strategy, like an actual format you use, as well as you handle and this is more for instead of the foundation, but probably more for Home Depot or Blink in general, how you validate that you're actually impacting sales, and sort of, even though it's directly or indirectly, and sort of showing here's the matrix. We want 17 posts coming in, and we got 18 per week, on average. And it's very tactical, but sort of the actual format, because it's so hard for your CEO to understand if we're putting resources against social media that's actually paying off and driving sales or impacting the business.
Yeah, great question. And I think for a company like ours, it's different than most of the folks in the room. So I'm trying to think of how to put it into a context. But so yes, we certainly do have a social media strategy. It's one that we admitted the first day we created one that it would probably be revisited and changed about every 6 months. The aspect that we're going to evolve and change as these different technologies evolve and change. We got a lot of buy-in. I mentioned that cross-functional team early on. So the aspect of saying, you know what, we're thinking about a strategy. What do you think, and what does this mean to your part of the organization? So getting that buy-in and getting folks on board, because in a company this big, it's okay for 2 people in a room to come up with a strategy, but what does that really mean, and how is that going to be executed? So the aspect of buy-in, know who else within the company or your organizations needs to be a part of that discussion. A lot of it is education. A big part of my strategy through 2008 and 2009 was just how do we educate? How do we share internally the small wins? So the aspect of, maybe we're not driving sales, but to see, I showed those before and after on the screen of customer turnaround stories. I don't know how much money that customer went back and spent, but that was a customer that was gone and gone forever. So the aspect of lifetime value of a customer and just, welcoming folks back into our stores. And that component of showing people something tangible like that, of, hey, here's what somebody was saying, and here's what they're saying now about it. And I've got to say, some of our most loyal fans, whether it's on Twitter or our Facebook page, are some of those customers who, when we first found